So I think we're ready to get the presentation started with Andy Beaton and the Sky This Month.
Hi, my name's Andy Beaton. I'm speaking to you from my basement office in downtown Toronto, and bring greetings from all the spiders and centipedes that have moved into my office now that the cold weather's here. I just want to say congratulations to Paul. 40 years is a pretty good run. I was there for some of the 1982 meetings, my first year in astronomy class at U of T. I didn't stay long because soon I had a lot of math problem sets and no time for fun, but we were there for a while. Anyway, here we are, the Sky This Month for October 5th until the next meeting, I think November 3rd. As usual, I've got a list of stuff to go through, the big picture of what's up in the sky, key dates, the moon, the planets, something going on in the deep sky, an interesting double star, obviously an interesting variable star because that's my thing, and then whatever is coming up in the world in space flight. It's particularly interesting. So starting with the big picture, if we go out tonight around 10 p.m., this is what we're seeing. And the exciting stuff is obviously the big parade of planets. We've got some really nice planets showing up there. Saturn, Jupiter, we've got Neptune, Uranus will be along, and a few minor planets if you happen to have a really good telescope and a really nice dark sky. The moon is up. It's going to be a nice night for looking at the moon. It's one of those phases where you get a lot of interesting stuff happening along the terminator. By the end of the month, we're going to start seeing the spring constellations show up in the morning. We've got Cancer and Leo there. We'll have Mars well overhead. Our winter constellations will already be starting to drift off towards the west, but there will be some good stuff to see there. You'll have a chance to see all your favorite winter constellations, Orion and Gemini and all that good stuff. Now, because this is October, we've got Halloween coming up. Normally, I don't really pay too much attention to holidays during this presentation, but I'm going to point out what's coming up on Halloween around 7 p.m. because it's always fun, if the weather is clear, to take telescopes out, put them on the sidewalk, and show some stuff to the kids going by. And this is going to be a good year for that, weather permitting, because we've not only got two big planets, Jupiter and Saturn, out there, but we also have the moon, which is something that is easy for the kids to see. They'll be able to figure out what they're looking at. It doesn't take a lot of astronomy knowledge to show a kid the moon and have them get pretty excited by how much fun it looks in a telescope. So our nights are getting longer. They're colder, but the good news is more dark skies at night for us. Astronomical Twilight ending around 8:10 tonight, starts again at 5:25 in the morning. By the next meeting, well, Twilight finished at 7:30 and starting again at 6 in the morning. So that's a good long night of observing. Important stuff coming up. The new moon on October 26th. The moon at apogee on the 17th and perigee on October 29th. Full moon on October 8th, so prepare your videos of good movies to watch while your deep sky observing is ruined. We've got a partial solar eclipse coming on October 25th. It's only visible in Africa and Europe. We're not going to see it, but due to the power of the internet, we may be able to watch it on screen, or you may be watching this from Africa or Europe and actually have an opportunity to see it yourselves. And we have Uranus being occulted by the moon on October 12th. That should be clearly visible for us around here in Toronto or most of North America. So if we get a clear sky, it'll be worth going out and looking for it. The moon, first quarter on November 1st, the full moon on the 9th, last quarter on the 17th, and the new moon on October 25th, just about a week before Halloween. So we'll have a few days for the moon to reappear in time to impress the public. The lunar X, for those who don't know, if you take a couple of craters and kind of put them side by side, the crater rims form an X when they're lit up by a certain angle. And that happens at 3:18 in the morning on November 1st. I wouldn't get up at 3 in the morning to see lunar X. It's a cool thing to see. It's not really scientifically important. But if you're up at 3:18 pursuing what other astronomical projects you've got going, then yeah, I would absolutely take a few minutes and point your telescope that way and have a look. It's a pretty neat looking phenomena. So we have a flood of planets, obviously, for the first week of October, peaking on the 9th. This is going to be the best time of the month to look at Mercury. This is early in the morning. Venus is going to be too close to the sun. We're not going to have a look at it this month. We're just going to have to wait for that one. But this is a really good time to see Mars. It's rising around 10:30 tonight and earlier throughout the month. And it's getting bigger and bigger as it gets closer. Last time I saw Mars back in the spring, it was about 3 or 4 arc seconds across. Now it's 13 to 15 arc seconds across. It's noticeably disk-sized in your telescope's view. You should be able to start seeing features on the surface, at least the ice caps and maybe some of the big dark blotchy bits. And Saturn and Jupiter are going to be the stars of the sky for the next month. Jupiter is up all night, and we just passed opposition a few days ago. So this is as big and bright as Jupiter is going to be. You should be able to see it just about anywhere. It's unmissable. It's insanely bright. You will look up in the sky and it will catch your eye like nothing else. Saturn is ahead of Jupiter in the sky. It'll set much earlier, but it's also well up in the sky in the evening when most of us are out with our friends and our telescopes. And as always, it's just about the most spectacular thing in the sky. You know, everybody loves seeing the rings. Uranus and Neptune, the ice giants, are also very well placed this month. Uranus will be up all night long. It's in Aries, and it's going to be approaching opposition, not quite there in this month, but it is going to be very bright. It's going to have as large as it's going to get. Not that there are ever really any features that we're going to be able to see with our amateur telescopes, but this is the best view we're going to get of it for a while. It'll at least be big enough that if you're showing it off to your friends, they will look at it through a telescope and they will see a disk, and it will be clear that it is not a planet, or sorry, not a star, but an actual planet. Same sort of deal for Neptune. It's just past opposition in Aquarius. It's going to be dimmer. You're not going to get it naked eye brightness, but you're still going to get a visible disk and that distinctive bluey green color that everybody loves the ice giants for. And then we have the dwarf planets, Pluto and Ceres. I pick on these because there are lots of dwarf planets, but these are the ones that any of us could see with a reasonable telescope. Pluto is in Sagittarius. It sets so soon after sunset that it's pretty much a hopeless case here. Ceres, on the other hand, is in Leo, and you'll see it in the morning. It's just under 9th magnitude, so a good pair of binoculars in a dark sky, you'll have no problem seeing it. With a telescope, I don't think you'll be able to see a disk. It's pretty small, but at least it won't be twinkling. It may have some kind of sign that it's not a star. So as always, I like to throw in a bit of deep sky stuff. You long-term observers, you've known this stuff, but if you're still new to the hobby and looking for exciting things to see, I'm going to point at the Perseus double cluster. 2 open clusters right beside each other, kind of between the obvious asterisms for Cassiopeia and Perseus. Perseus has that kind of tripod shape, and then Cassiopeia is the W, and halfway in between them, there's that double cluster that you can just barely see with the naked eye. Looks even better with binoculars, and the more and more telescope power you throw at it, the more spectacular it gets. 869 is the NGC 869 is the younger of the two. NGC 885 has more red supergiants in it. It's a bit older. I just happen to have a picture of it here. The lower one is the older one. You can see some of the bright red stars in there. It's really quite a spectacular pair of clusters. Now, for the more experienced observers, I always like to find something more challenging. I would like to suggest, obviously, variable stars. KK Persei and XX Persei are stars associated with the cluster, both of them interesting variables. I would also suggest try taking images in both red and blue light. Try and see if there's a difference in the average color of the stars, and if you can estimate the cluster's ages from that. Well, all right, I'm going to admit it. Double cluster doesn't really have a lot to offer a deeply experienced observer. So for you guys, I'm going to suggest Stefans Quintet, a group of 5 apparently bound galaxies. 4 of them are actually gravitationally bound together, and 1 more is just in the line of sight. You do need a biggish telescope to see it. My 8-inch telescope behind here is not good enough. I've never managed. I've always managed it by taking myself up to Starfest or other star parties and looking around for someone with a big telescope who is willing to share. You can look for halos around the galaxies. You can look for distortions in the galaxies caused by the gravity of the other members. So for you experienced observers, there's lots to see there. So we always have comets and meteors happening. The Orionids are the big meteor shower for the next month. Peaking around October 21st, we can probably expect 20 meteors an hour. It's not far off the it's not far off the full moon, so it's not going to be outstanding. No, it's not far off the new moon, so it is going to be outstanding. My apologies. Southern Taurids, they will peak November 5th, so that's into the next month's the Sky This Month. It'll be someone else's job to tell you about that, but they do start appearing on October 28th. So if you're out observing and you see meteors pointing back to the southern end of Taurus, you're probably looking at members of that shower. We have a minor shower, the Epsilon Geminids, going all month long. That's just a few meteors an hour. You won't notice it unless you just happen to be tracing back any meteors you see. And the same case for the meteor dribbles we've got there, the Draconids, the October Camelopardalids. I like saying that. October Zeta Perseids, very small meteor showers. You'd be lucky to see one in a night, but they are out there. So as long as you're out observing, keep an eye out for them. We've got some comets. C2017 K2 Pan-STARRS is the brightest one out there right now. It's in Lepus. It's going to be just a wee smidgen above the horizon, so either get yourself down to the north shore of Lake Erie and Point Pelee and look from there, or more realistically, if you're traveling further south from here, or if you happen to be joining us from Chile, you've got a good chance to look at the best current comet in the sky. C2022 P1 Neowise is 10.7 in Grus, and that's definitely southern hemisphere only. That's way below the horizon for us. And then a couple of ZTF comets, C2022 E3 and C2021 E3. One currently in Corona Borealis and the other in Antlia, and that's another southern hemisphere one only. But I noticed that we've got someone from Chile here in the chat room, so I'm hoping that they get a chance to go out and see these things that we can't. Now, according to space weather, yesterday, when I was putting the final touches on this presentation, there was a strong probability of auroral activity, not necessarily over Toronto, but at least more than usual. If you're out of the city, if you're in more northern parts of Ontario or anywhere closer to the magnetic pole, keep an eye out if it's clear. You know, it might be a good night for aurora. And if you're deciding that you want to check sometime other than tonight and want to know what's happening, spaceweather.com is where I go for details and forecasts. So, I don't know if Blake is here, but I always like to pick a double star, or in this case, a multiple star on his behalf. Iota Cassiopeia, visible to the naked eye, 4.6 white A star, and it's a 7th magnitude companion yellow F star, the B star. With any reasonable small telescope, you should be able to split those apart. They're just about 7 arc seconds apart. Then there's a C star, which is another 7 arc seconds further away. It's considerably dimmer, and an orange K star. But you know, triple stars, that's old news. We've seen stuff like that many times. So this one comes with 2 bonus stars that you are very unlikely to see unless you have a decent spectroscope. The A and C stars are both spectroscopic binaries. So if you're looking for a star that you can talk about at dinner parties, and all the people will be impressed by the fact that you've seen a quintuple star, this is the one to remember. Now, people who have listened to my talks before know that you're not going anywhere without hearing about a variable star. Our Aquarii is the one I've got this time. Varies between 5.2 and 12.4 magnitude. This is a cool one because it's a Z Andromedae type variable. And that means you've got a white dwarf and a red giant, and the white dwarf is slurping material off the extended atmosphere of the red giant. And every now and then, enough of it builds up on the surface of the white dwarf, and it will ignite, and the magnitude goes shooting up there, which is all very cool. I mean, these kind of cataclysmic variables are the kind of stars that are not getting caught by the automated star surveys. This is where amateur observers like you and I come in, because we're the ones that are seeing these phenomena happening within the early hours and getting the information directly to the professional astronomers who care. Now, this is even more exciting because not only is this a Z Andromedae type variable, but it's also an eclipsing binary, which is undergoing a once in 40 years eclipse. So this is all very fascinating, and professional astronomers are showing considerable interest in this. So the AAVSO, the American Association of Variable Star Observers, has set up a campaign along with astronomers using the Chandra X-ray Observatory in orbit to observe this and gather as much data as possible, which is where you and I come in. Any observations that you guys or I put in there will be put to work by professional astronomers and be a contributing factor in real life science. So if you get a chance, visual observations are great. If you have a photometer, even better. AAVSO.org is where you can go for all the details. And I hope somebody gets to get out there and get some really good science happening. So coming up in spaceflight, I'm actually not going to bother telling you about Falcon 9s anymore. That's old news. I could fill a page with them. It's interesting, but not exciting. It's not a highlight anymore. I mean, the big highlight is going to be the JWST, which is going to be sending us new stuff for years to come, but we're still in the early stages. New exciting stuff coming along all the time, so keep an eye out for it. I'm not going to ignore SpaceX entirely. Their Starship and Super Heavy orbital test is coming up, the exact date to be specified. And for dueling spaceships, NASA's Space Launch System and Artemis 1 also coming up at a date to be determined. I was hoping it was going to be sometime within the next month. The latest estimate I've heard is going to be early November, so we will see. The Mentian component of China's space station also to be launched, to be determined. Yeah, nothing's very specific this month, so you're going to have to glue yourself to your television as soon as you leave here and stick there until something gets launched. The ISS will be passing overhead in the mornings from October 19th until the next meeting. That's overhead here in Toronto. I've been looking at the space station for years, and I still get a kick out of it. It feels so much like the future, seeing a space station fly overhead. For the exact times and locations, if you're not here in Toronto, heavensabove.com is the go-to for that information. But what if it's cloudy, or what if your neighbor has brand new security lights and you can't see anything in the sky? Zooniverse.org has a heap of citizen science projects. There are dozens of them. The ones that I thought looked interesting this month: cloud spotting on Mars, disk detective looking for planetary disks around other stars, Rosetta Zoo analyzing data that's been churned down from the Comet 67P explorations, and dark energy explorers, because who doesn't like dark energy? Everyone's going to be up there looking at all these distant galaxies and looking for weird gravitational effects, and it could be you. So I hope you have a good month of observing, and thanks for listening.
Thank you, Andy, for a thorough review of the sky this month, as usual. Let's go to Ennio. Do we have any questions for Andy?
Yes, we do. But first, I'd like to draw attention to the very wide number of viewers watching this evening. We've got people from the west coast of Canada all the way to the UAE, so I'd like to extend yet another welcome to you.
Excellent. If there's someone here from the UAE, keep an eye out for that partial eclipse that we don't get to see from here.
Well, certainly. And I'd like to bring up Tarek Al-Manrani, who asks about recommendations for cameras to shoot planets. Telescopes are mostly known, but he's looking for any camera recommendations.
Oh, good question. I have to say the best images I've seen from planets over the past few years have been people using digital SLRs. I don't think the exact brand matters too much. The secret is to set it up on your telescope and take dozens or even hundreds of images, and then get your stacking software to jam them all together and get rid of the noise and get insanely detailed images that I never would have dreamt about in my youth.
Thank you. And that's our question for the evening.
Okay, cool. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks, Ennio, and thanks again, Andy.